Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare. So settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome, welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the office. Welcome to the morning grind. It is so great to have you this morning. I hope you are doing well. I have been up and writing this morning, so I've been feeling great. I have I started yesterday, but gotta say, it was kind of like there were some elements of what Butler was talking about in the book. From Where You Dream, it was taking me a while to get into it. I've been trying to rewrite and edit, and basically it's becoming a rewrite of a story for Christmas. I'm a big fan of Christmas and the theme of Christmas. And I had several Christmas stories that I had written a long time ago. And every Christmas I've thought, oh, man, it would be great to actually get these published and out to the world. And every Christmas I failed. So right now, I put other things kind of aside because I'm like, if it's going to happen, it needs to happen right now. And the first thing, and in order to make it happen, I've got to edit, and it turns out completely rewrite this Christmas story. And so I was working on it yesterday, and I was kind of reacquainting myself with the story and doing some research and trying to figure out how I wanted to have it structured. And I had an epiphany, so to speak, on that last night, late. was working on it yesterday, but still, and then this morning got up and using that kind of information, got rolling with it again. And now here I am. So, I had to reset my 3-day clock because I did eat last night. Needed to eat. So sometimes I have to ease myself into that. So I ended up eating last night. So I've reset my 3-day countdown clock for creativity to get this done, and also try to fast here for 3 days. So I don't know I don't know what my time is right now. So that countdown clock reset at 11 p.m. last night. So we will get to that. Let us see who all is here. There are other things to talk about too today, and of course we're going to be going and continuing with we've been having some fantastic discussions on arms and armor, and just fantasy in general, and history, a lot of history too. Hey, there was one time when we were taking a look at a Norman Hallberg and our interpretations of the Bayeux Tapestry. This has spawned a fantastic set of conversations. All right, so let's see who all is here. Let's see, here we got, good morning, James. Good morning. I got coffee this morning, actually. Lynn, good morning. Good morning. Robert is here. Let's see, Zero the Blade, good morning. Good morning. Oh, Robert's reporting in. Robert says, start menu development underway. Options 1 and 2 for pre-generated characters already functional. Option 3 creates a unique character and party of NPC adventurers to accompany the PC on the game. Nice. I didn't think about having a party of NPC adventurers. That's really cool. Robert says, almost there. Let's see. Yes, please do. Thank you, Stray. Please hit the like button and check out the Discord server. I post there whenever we're going live for other shows that are not, at non-standard times other than the morning show. So that's how you know what's going on. Hey, Draco, good morning. It's good to see you. Yeah, I was about to say, it's been a while, but good to see you. Good to see you. Let's see. Good morning, Sable. Good morning. All right, so a couple of things here. So let's see, so here we are over here. So here is the countdown timer. So I've reset, but I'm going to try to get this story done in this amount of time, and I'm going to try not to eat anything. I got black coffee this morning. I brewed black coffee. So here we go. I'm going to try to get 2 days, 13 hours, 6 minutes to try to get this Christmas story done as far as the writing is concerned. If I can get the writing done this time, then I'll be able to get it out this Christmas. But I got to get the writing done. And I got this amount of time to finish this edit. So that's going on. I got cultist coffee this morning. It's been a while since I've actually brewed coffee. So black coffee this morning. Let's see. Let's go over here first. Speaking of things going on, and I've got to check the stats on this. People have been signing up, and it has been fantastic. So this right here is the link to Goodnight Sword. A free Goodnight Sword. That's one of the things that's also going on as I've been going back to the beginning of a lot of my projects and trying to reorient them. Goodnight Sword is going to come to Indiegogo soon. If you are not familiar or you're here for the first time, Goodnight Sword is my take on Goodnight Moon, and it's the first story that I have out in the Tales of Rabavania. And if you have a child who is about the right age for Goodnight Sword, well, you ought to have them read if you're a child, you have a child that's about the right age for Goodnight Moon, you probably would want to have them read Goodnight Sword. It is the perfect bedtime story for all of us out here in the Geekverse. Like, who doesn't want to read their kid Goodnight Sword? But if you have a kid, niece, nephew, cousin, whatever of that right age, click the link that I just put in the chat right there. I just put it in there. You can go over here. You can download the complete ebook right now, so you can read it tonight. It can be bedtime story tonight. This is the complete PDF. I've got a PDF download here, so you get a free PDF. You got the whole story. You can put it on your iPad, whatever. Read it tonight. And then in a couple of weeks, I'm going to launch an Indiegogo campaign to get hardback books printed up again. So if you missed it the last time, or you're new here and you know somebody who would like that, maybe an upcoming Christmas gift, who knows? Sign up there, and then I'll also do a drawing here on the Morning Grind when the Indiegogo launches for a free book, free hard copy book. And then we will launch the Indiegogo, and we'll get some more books printing. If you have or are a child, get the book, James says. Thank you, James. Okay, so on a little bit of report on good news before we get into, we still got to do the SIP. Don't let me forget the SIP, and then also we're going to read our portion from the Art of War this morning, the War of Art this morning. But also a little bit of a report in here on some stats, because if you remember, maybe about 3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, I tried to start getting really serious about branding the material that we've been creating over here, because I realized, I got like over 1,000 YouTube videos. And I think part of the issue is that I don't have them branded very well. It used to be I didn't have enough YouTube videos. Then all of a sudden, yes, the Art of War is much different. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. But so I thought that part of the problem might be that, hey, I used to not have enough material, but now I've got all this material, and I'm, you know what? Actually, these things belong on different channels. I need to really focus on branding. And I think that in the medium, even though in the short term, that kind of causes some trouble, because we got to get everybody onto the different channels, because as stuff starts to move to different channels. But in the medium to long term, that's going to be a good thing. And I noticed that yesterday, so over here, this is the Table Talk channel. Let me post a link over here. If you're not already subscribed to that channel, Table Talk channel, the Table Talk podcast, or I don't call it the live stream. I think it says podcast over there, but the Table Talk conversations in the Geekverse. This channel now has 205 subscribers. So that's really nice. When I woke up this morning, I texted Doug about this. So that yesterday alone, so there are 205 subscribers over there right now. That the channel, I started really uploading videos to that channel about 4 weeks ago or something like that. And yesterday, that channel received or got 47 subscribers. So of those 205 subscribers, 47 of them, so roughly 25% of all the subscribers on that channel came in yesterday. So I've got to look up exactly why that is, but it looks like some of our Star Wars clips are being watched. So that's why I think that gives me encouragement that what we're doing here, the steps I've been going through to doing rebranding and trying to make a consistent brand across several different YouTube channels is working. It just takes a while. It takes a while to grow, but like I said, it's medium term. Short term, but medium term, I think it's gonna be right. And I was very encouraged this morning when I woke up and we saw 47 new subscribers on that channel. So that's great. And then also on that same kind of note, maybe it is. James says we should call it the Sable effect. He makes his first appearance and people subscribe. Yes, both James Bacon and Sable Phoenix were on the last Table Talk episode. Let's see. Last time right here. Here's, if you scroll down to past live streams, this discussion right here, which is a fantastic discussion. From Where You Dream. That's the book I just referenced at the start here. And then likewise, let's see if I go over here too, and I got to do some more stuff on Dinner and a Board Game, because I'm really excited about that show, but it is the most complicated one, even though it's online and live, to create right now. But Dinner and a Board Game right here, it's also being rebranded, and it has 906 subscribers. And let's see, it's reporting, as far as our analytics go, that in the last 28 days, but really not 28 days, because I haven't been uploading stuff for 28 days over there. So maybe the last 21 days, this channel has received 253 subscribers. So 253 subscribers, a little bit more than 25%, have come in the last 21 days. So I think this is working. I'm excited about it. I gotta work with some people to get a system down to create Dinner and a Board Games. I've kind of got a reasonable system down to create the Table Talk episodes, and I also have a pretty reasonable system, I guess, for creating the Morning Grind right here, which is where this is staying. This is staying on this channel. Excuse me. Oh, my microphone was in a different place. Might sound different now. But on the other hand, so I need a system to get Dinner and a Board Game done. But I'm also very encouraged because 253 subscribers coming in this channel, that sounds good. So I think we are growing. I think we're all growing. Good morning, PH and Michael. Good morning. All right, so that's what's going on. So I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by that. I say all that to say that I'm encouraged by what's going on here on the channel and channels. And now one thing I still got to do is I've got to rebrand the cultists. People should be talking about the cultists. So I'm going to rebrand the cultist. Right now, the cultist is still here on this channel, but I've got to do another major thing I got to do. But after this writing session, next 3 days, is to rebrand the cultist and get the cultist up on its own channel and going out. So that's going to be a big thing too. All right. So let me also, I will bring up our, the War of Art. This is my inspiration while I am trying to do the writing here. And so we are reading, these are small books. The great thing about this book is that there's just small sections, small chapters to read. And so actually this is what's coming up here is actually one of the longer chapters because it's like two pages of, you know, a novel size book. And that's actually one of the longer passages. So we will see. So let me bring this up, present, share screen. This is The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. So here is our inspiration. We got a lot of creative people here on the channel. We're trying to get stuff done, work done, creative things made. So maybe this will inspire you as well. So I'm going to bring this up, and let's breathe and sip, and then go into our reading. So here we go. Got your coffee, 2 deep breaths, complete deep inhales, complete exhales, and then take a sip of your favorite beverage. Some people aren't doing it. You should. You need to join in. It'll make your life better. It really will. So here we go. And sip. That's good. That's good. That's good this morning. Okay, so you can see this first passage is really short, so we'll do that, and then we'll do the second one right here. This is Steven Pressfield, The War of Art. What I know. There's a secret that real writers know that wannabe writers don't, and the secret is this. It's not the writing part that's hard. What's hard is sitting down to write. What keeps us from sitting down is resistance. And as I've said before, and I'll say again, if I were to start a religion, the opposition would not be sin, but it would be resistance. And resistance is everything that keeps us from being everything we are supposed to be. The next section, the unlived life. Most of us have 2 lives, the lives we live and the unlived life within us. Between the two stands resistance. Have you ever brought home a treadmill and let it gather dust in the attic? Ever quit a diet, a course of yoga, a meditation practice? Have you ever bailed out on a call to embark upon a spiritual practice, dedicated yourself to a humanitarian calling, commit yourself to the service of others? Have you ever wanted to be a mother, a doctor, an advocate for the weak and helpless, to run for office, crusade for the planet, campaign for world peace, or preserve the environment? Late at night, have you experienced a vision of the person you might become, the work you could accomplish, the realized being that you are meant to be? Are you a writer who doesn't write, a painter who doesn't paint, an entrepreneur who never starts a venture? Then you know what resistance is. One night I was lying down. I heard Papa talking to Mama. I heard Papa say, "Let that boy boogie woogie, because it's in him and it's got to come out." John Lee Hooker, Boogie Chillin'. Resistance is the most toxic force on the planet. It's the root of more unhappiness than poverty, disease, and erectile dysfunction. To yield to resistance deforms our spirit. It stunts us and makes us less than we are and were born to be. If you believe in God, and I do, you must declare resistance evil, for it prevents us from achieving the life God intended when He endowed each of us with our own unique genius. Genius is a Latin word. The Romans used it to denote an inner spirit, holy and inviolable, which watches over us, guiding us to our calling. A writer writes with his genius, an artist paints with hers. Everyone who creates operates from this sacramental center. It's our artist, or it's our soul's seat, the vessel that holds our being in potential, our star's beacon and Polaris. Every sun casts a shadow, and genius's shadow is resistance. As powerful as our soul's call is to realization, so potent are the forces of resistance arrayed against it. Resistance is faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, harder to kick than crack cocaine. We're not alone if we've been moved down by resistance. Millions of good men and women have bitten the dust before us. And here's the biggest bitch. We don't even know what hit us. We never did. From age 24 to 32, Resistance kicked my ass from the East Coast to the West and back again 13 times, and I never even knew it existed. I looked everywhere for the enemy and failed to see it right in front of my face. Have you heard this story? Woman learns she has cancer, 6 months to live. Within days, she quits her job, resumes the dream of writing Tex-Mex songs she gave up to raise a family, or starts studying classical Greek, or moves to the inner city and devotes herself to tending babies with AIDS. Woman's friends think she's crazy, but she herself has never been happier. There's a postscript. Woman's cancer goes into remission. Is that what it takes? Do we have to stare death in the face to make us stand up and confront resistance? Does resistance have to cripple and disfigure our lives before we wake up to its existence? How many of us have been drunks and drug addicts, developed tumors and neurosis, succumbed to painkillers, gossip, and compulsive cell phone use, simply because we don't do that which is in our hearts, our inner genius is calling us to do? Resistance defeats us. If tomorrow morning, by some stroke of magic, every dazed and benighted soul woke up with the power to take the first step toward pursuing his or her dreams, every shrink in the directory would be out of business. Prisons would stand empty. The alcohol and tobacco industries would collapse. And along with junk food, cosmetic surgery, the infotainment business, not to mention pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and the medical profession from top to bottom. Domestic abuse would become extinct, as would addiction, obesity, migraine headaches, road rage, and dandruff. Look in your own heart. Unless I'm crazy, right now a still small voice is piping up, telling you as it has 10,000 times, the calling is yours and yours alone. You know it. No one has to tell you, and unless I'm crazy, you're no closer to taking action on it than you were yesterday or will be tomorrow. You think resistance isn't real? Resistance will bury you. You know, Hitler wanted to be an artist. At 18, he took his inheritance, 700 kronen, and moved to Vienna to live and study. He applied to the Academy of Fine Arts and later to the School of Architecture. Ever see one of his paintings? Neither have I. Resistance beat him. Call it an overstatement, but I'll say it anyway. It was easier for Hitler to start World War II than it was for him to face a blank square of canvas. That's our reading for today. Michael says, any chance you will cover the sword of Cepheus? It's a fantasy using the Traveler Core system modified for sword and sorcery. I don't know. I haven't heard of that one. I've got a list over here. It's time to rewrite my list. I made a list of things I got to do this year, and then I also have a list someplace. Where'd my list of the morning grind topics go, or potential morning grind topics go? I have no idea. I started barely to clean up around here. And now I can't find anything. No joke. Actually, I started cleaning because I was saying everything is here on my desk, and I was looking for my book. I sat down just like 2 minutes before the morning grind started. I was like, where's my book? Where's the arms and equipment guide? I put it back on the shelf. I was panicked. I was like, where? Oh my God, stuff is like back on the shelf. It's not just laying around all over the place. I couldn't find anything. It's just on the shelf. I'll check this out and see if it's something that I think would be interesting for the show. Sword of Cepheus. Good morning, BGD. Sable Phoenix says the final page of the War of Art actually had me a little emotional. We will get to it. Lynn says, my treadmill gathers dust in the basement because it was easier to carry it down a flight of stairs than up a flight of stairs. Specifically the last paragraph. Oh, here it is. Creative work is not a selfish act or a bid for attention on the part of the actor. It's a gift to the world and every being in it. Don't cheat us of your contribution. Give us what you've got. Really? Hold on. It looks like I need to clean the lens. Whoa, well, that looks worse. Hang on. Well, that looks worse still. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. I think there might be condensation in this lens. Oh, well. So Sable says creative. So I didn't know this was in here because Cameron told me something very similar. Creative work is not a selfish act or a bid for attention on the part of the actor. Now, not because I was having this situation. We were talking about somebody else. We were discussing in somebody else. But it's a gift to the world and every being in it. Don't cheat us of your contribution. Give us what you've got. And I like that because we were having a discussion with regard to Shakespeare. The example was Shakespeare. And it was saying that, what if Shakespeare had, first of all, never written his plays, or written his plays and then thrown it in a drawer and never actually gotten them out there to the world? Think about everything that's happened because Shakespeare exists. Everybody who's been inspired by Shakespeare from a literary perspective, all of the acting and theater careers that have been launched, all of the film careers. I mean, think of everything that's happened because Shakespeare exists. This cascading effect. So I like that too. If you've got something, you need to get it out to the world because, you could have the cascading effect like Shakespeare. Even something like George. I mean, think about any of these things. George Lucas with Star Wars. Okay, he made Star Wars. And now as a consequence, think of everything that's happened because Star Wars exists. James says, there are parts of this book that hit hard like that. The unlived life was one of those chapters for me. The difference between who you are and who you are meant to be is giving in to resistance. He masterfully captures personal accountability and resistance. It's an external force that's powerless until we feed it and capitulate. Very powerful. Sable says, the unlived life is gold. And I personally know of cancer stories exactly like that. One of the herbalist, botanist therapists I was working with said he'd never worked on anyone who has cancer that didn't also have suppressed anger over something. It was easier to start World War II than face that blank square of canvas. That's a hell of a statement. Well, okay. Point still stands. Okay. Let's get to our book. Let's get to our book. I think that's an important part of the morning. That's an important part of the morning. The point of this has always been like the morning grind is also early on. This is the cheerleading session. This is where we show up. We should have. I'm clicking the wrong thing. There we go. Ideally, and this is the first time in weeks that I have been up and actually writing before the morning grind starts because I've gotten completely out of my sleeping habit out of whack. And but this should be a celebration because we've done work in the morning, but also inspire us a little bit of a break here to keep going in the afternoon. Oh, Sable says, I love that you're starting the grind with an entry in the War of Art every day now. Good. I hope everybody likes it too. If you haven't experienced that book and you're a creative person, like I know a lot of people around here, it's an important book. And here's a great way for us to read it, even if you might not otherwise read it. Although I've also been enjoying the audiobook. I need to remember to turn that on later today. All right. So we were taking a look at the arms and equipment guide. This has been a fantastic discussion. We've got through armor. I didn't put the... There we go. Let's see. I don't know what we need to say here. Oh, we do have this picture here that I like. It looks like how a man shall be armed when he shall fight on foot. Well, he doesn't look like he's about to fight on foot. He looks like he's about to fight from horseback. But this arming of the knight by the squire. We've got some information here on barding. This is another one of those subjects that seems like it's kind of added on to me. This book, by the way, is a 1991 book. If you're just joining us for the first time with the series, this is a 1991 book from Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. And we're kind of looking at it as a historical artifact for what they thought weapons and armor were like back in 1991 when referencing earlier books. And some of the stuff in this book is just horrible. And so we've tried to come up with some better, some analysis of that, a better analysis of that. But it's interesting to look back and see how influential this kind of thinking and terminology was on sort of popular culture, medieval arms and armor, and why that's so terrible. 1991? Yep, I checked that, right? That was right, wasn't it? Yeah, copyright 1991. This is 1991. We do have barding here, and it seems like barding is also something that is kind of added on, kind of like the helmet rules. We thought the helmet rules, we were looking at the called shot rules too. Because, like, okay, how do you deal with the horse? And I don't remember what's going on. Like, how do you make sure that you? I remember there being rules for barding and like heavy cavalry in the wargaming rules. But how do you deal with your horse being hit or your mount being hit in general? I don't remember. I was thinking about that as I was taking a brief walk yesterday about what AD&D was trying to do with the categorizing basically all armor within 10 different steps of protectiveness. So it tells us that we've got light barding, the different kinds of barding or light barding. Well, no, types of barding include full barding, a complete set of horse armor that provides rated protection when attacked from any side. Note that the term full plate is used to note a new, more advanced type of horse armor like fighter's full plate armor. But also, we talked about the cataphract, so like cataphract armor. Yes, it is. We talked about that one yesterday. We covered Gnomish Tinker's armor yesterday. There it is. Which we said does have one of the better pictures. That one right there. Half barding. The difference between half barding and full barding is that half barding covers only the front and forward sides of the animal. Attacks from the rear or rear flanks use the mount's base armor class. So I guess this is if you're directing attacks directly against the mount. I don't remember rules for if you're attacked and you're mounted and does it hit you or the mount. I don't remember that, but it could be there. Partial barding. This is an option that allows the averaging of a mount's armor class if full barding is not available. See table 4. Note that all suits of barding, including half barding, are complete units. That is, half barding is not achieved by leaving off part of half of a horse's armor. The pieces are made to be used together. They're specifically formed, fitted, and balanced to provide a certain level of protection and a certain degree of nobility in a fight. Cobbling together odd or ill-fitting pieces degrades the effect as a whole to the degree ruled by the dungeon master. In the following section, barding is discussed in order to from least protective to most protective. But we kind of go through the different types of armor again. We got light barding, which is padded barding, leather barding, and then medium barding, scale barding. What does it say about scale barding? Scale barding is an early form of medium protective barding, generally superseded by chain in more advanced regions. It's most common in the Dark Ages, Eastern, or frontier settings, will be still somewhat less common than chain barding in a Western medieval setting. Refer to Chapter 1 for more information on the construction and appearance of scale armor. Full scale barding weighs 75 pounds. Brigandine barding. Has anybody ever seen brigandine barding? I mean, I guess you could make barding out of all these different things, which is why it's kind of repeating all of our different armor types. Like studded leather barding, chain barding, ring barding. Right, yeah, I completely don't believe ring barding is something that existed. Man, imagine being in a full suit of protective plate and then also being made to give a piggyback ride. That's barding. You think the mount and mounted combat were in the AD&D and AD&D 2nd edition DMG? That could be. I don't remember it being something that really kept up. That we really dealt with a whole lot. Let's see if mounted combat's here. I'm so glad they re-released these books. I had a copy, but it got taken a copy in the copy of the player's handbook, but that got lost in the purge. And so when I saw they re-released the 2nd edition books, the special edition, I had to get them. Combat. So, yes, called shots are in here. Hitting a specific target with called shots. We were looking at that in the fighter's handbook yesterday. Missile special attacks, saving throws, magic resistance. I don't see a section on. Oh, look, no, I do. Mounted combat 105. Looks like it's brief. So we do have mounts trained for combat. A heavy warhorse, for example, present few problems. I think that's problems as in fighting from horseback. These can be used in mounted combat with no penalty. However, steeds that are not trained for combat are easily frightened by the noise and confusion. Those fighting from the back of an untrained creature suffer -2 on their chance to hit, since most of their time is spent simply trying to keep the mount under control. Panic. The rider of an untrained mount must make a riding proficiency check whenever the mount is injured or startled by a surprising event, such as a lightning bolt spell blasting the rider or somebody close by. That causes your horse to panic. Oh, Michael says later when the Paladin and Cavalier books came out, there was a Cavalier book. The Paladin book I've got over there, the Paladin book is fantastic. Many of the different books, both the brown and the blue books, were kind of uneven quality. But the Paladin book, that's the mainstay in the line, or a real anchor of the line. If the check fails, the mount panics and bolts, carrying a rider up to 1.5 times its normal move. Although the mount panics in a more or less random direction, it goes generally forward unless that carries it straight into the face of danger. If unable to flee, a panicked mount rears and bucks uncontrollably. Characters without riding proficiency automatically lose control of a panicked mount. A proficient rider can attempt to regain control once per round. Regardless of the rider's proficiency, the mount's panic only lasts 1d4 rounds. So fighting from horseback. In mounted fighting, a character gets +1 bonus to his chance to hit creatures smaller than his mount. Whoa! I remember that rule. I didn't know that was actually in the DMG. I remember I played a mounted warrior. Now, there was like a plains Native American Indian for a while. And that was a really neat character. And so he was often mounted. And he had this rule where you get +1 to hit anything that's smaller than your mount, which I think is a bizarre rule. But I thought that was just something that was specific to that particular kit for some reason. But it's not. So that was actually a rule that was about just mounted combat in general. I mean, that's in a mounted fighting, a character gets +1 bonus to hit creatures smaller than his mount. That was always one of those things. So is this thing I'm fighting, is this smaller than my horse? Okay, then I get +1 to hit. Thus, a man on horseback gets +1 bonus to his attack rolls against all medium-sized creatures such as other men, but would not gain this bonus against another rider or a giant. Those on foot who fight against a mounted rider have a -1 penalty. This is not applied to attacks against the mount. So this is you're having to attack the mount specifically. Okay, lances. See, and like lances and things like that are also, they seem to be special rules, but they absolutely were in the rules cyclopedia when they were talking about here are your rules for battle, and then here are some actually special rules. Sable says, I'd only allow that +1 if the weapon is designed for cavalry use, a spatha, cavalry saber, spear, lance, etc. Now, so lance is the preferred weapon of the mounted rider. However, the type of lance used, light, medium, or heavy, can't be greater than the size of the horse ridden, light, medium, or heavy. Medium and heavy lances gain their striking power from the momentum of the mount. By themselves, these lances are not capable of doing significant damage. Simply stabbing someone with a heavy lance won't produce nearly the same results. Therefore, these weapons are most effective when there's plenty of attack space. During the first round of battle, a rider can attack with a heavy or medium lance. After this, however, the rider must break off, most likely by continuing past his opponent, turn his mount, and gallop back again. I don't think we see that enough in movies and fiction, and I want to depict the Rabivanian night charges in that way. That they ride in and go through their opponent and then come back and charge again. If the rider wants to continue the fight close in, he must throw the lance to the ground. Blah, blah, blah. Those are breakable. Missile fire. Being dismounted. I was looking for stuff about attacking the mount and mount AC, specifically, since we were talking about barding. Being dismounted. Weapon impact. The flying tackle. Finally, those on horseback can attempt to dive on another rider by making an attack roll. Aerial combat. Tournament rules. Underwater combat. So it doesn't specifically talk about, I didn't see in there, missing your target and hitting the mount. Maybe it's someplace else. Banded barding, splint barding, plate barding. Going through all of our different types, but this time just applying it to a horse. Field plate barding, full plate barding. Okay. PH says, in 3.5, it was the opposite. If a creature is smaller than you, you would receive a penalty to hit. Horseshoes, saddles. This is like equipment. I don't think we have to go through every bit of this. Horse tack and harness, bit, bridles. Now, see, it makes me wonder about the terminology. Although I bet that terminology regarding horse tack and harness, bits, bridles, and such are probably better than our armor situation. But our armor situation casts doubt on a whole bunch of it. But it's probably much more accessible to get information on the terminology of that than it is about medieval armor in 1991. But on the other hand, are these the medieval terms for these things? Maybe not. Stirrups. Optional rule. Mounted fighters without stirrups who are struck in combat must make a save versus paralyzation or fall from the horse. Optional barding, armor class, horse barding. Warhorse category. We got light, medium, and heavy warhorses. Or light, medium, and... well, this does say warhorse types up here. Light, medium, and heavy. And that depends on light, medium, or heavy lance. Okay. The light warhorse category includes ponies and riding horses. The latter reflects custom and use rather than the ability. The latter reflects custom and use rather than the ability of the horse. I don't understand that sentence. Limits. A horse can wear half barding, one class heavier than its maximum full barding. Flying creatures are limited to leather and padded barding only. Padded includes quilted armor. Scale includes studded leather, brigandine, and ringmail. It's a lot of detail right there. Weight of warhorse versus what type of barding it can use. Optional partial barding. I do like this picture right here. Oh, thank you, BGD. Yes, please do hit the like and subscribe. And also, if you're just coming in, I posted links earlier on to the dedicated Table Talk channel and the dedicated Dinner and a Board Game channel. And those have been doing very well. We talked about earlier in the stream. But if you find those links and click them, it would be great to have you over and subscribe to those channels as well, as we increasingly do more and more over there. But this is I always like this picture. I think it's got a cool look. This Death Knight in a swamp. I want to say that this has appeared in one of my dreams, like an armored Death Knight like this in a swamp. He wasn't necessarily in the swamp, but I remember a dream where there was like wooden walkways through a swamp, dark swamp like this, and something like this appeared. All right, so then we get over here to weapons. Arquebus, yes. So, all right, so this is probably going to also have a lot of discussion. There's a lot here. So one of the most common events in the life of an adventurer, regardless of profession, is the need for armed combat. Some adventurers make a career out of hacking and slashing, while others use combat as a last resort. Fortunately for adventurers, there are many different types of weapons than there are reasons for using them. This chapter details the vast majority of weapons available to the discerning adventurer. A fair warning, though, a weapon is only as effective as the hero who wields it. Sometimes a smaller or less-looking weapon may be called for. Most of the entries that follow include commentary from distinguished adventurers. Heed their advice. Look over the list carefully and choose well. Your PC's life may depend on it. Note, during the research into various weapons, conflicting backgrounds arose for several weapons, I am sure. The terminology and history that follows were chosen for consistency with what has already been established by the AD&D game universe. So we do have that constraint. We got to follow what's already been established for the AD&D game universe. Oh, many references. Look, the Bayeux Tapestry. We were talking about that. Many references are made to an item known as the Bayeux Tapestry. This is a tapestry that depicts the Battle of Hastings in 1066 AD, in which William the Conqueror led the Normans from the European continent to England. The Normans defeated the Anglo-Saxons under King Harold. This tapestry has given scholars many clues on how warfare was conducted at the time. And we've been talking about that the other day. PH says a lot of detail for something that isn't exactly precise or based in reality. Which one are we talking about? Because we did it that way the first time crops up a lot in the history of D&D development. Yes, yes. So you're kind of locked in. Because you don't want to, for the sake of the consistency of your rule book. Daniel says, rule number 15, a hero is only as good as his weapon. That's the reverse, right? So for some reason, it does start with arquebus. I guess we're going in, okay, so alphabetical order. I was like, why don't we start with arquebus? The arquebus is a musket used by cultures just learning the technology of guns. It's a two-handed weapon. Oh, but also I was going to say, also what I'm sure this book is going to do, much like armor, is it's got to put all of these weapons in some kind of category, because you could be doing Dark Ages, you could be doing the Age of Mail, you could be doing the High Middle Ages, you could be doing the pike and shot age with arquebuses, early muskets. You could be doing Renaissance Italy with rapiers and all of that. And so also D&D just takes all this and tries to jam it all into one. Like, okay, here's everything that makes, here's it all. Look at how long it took for D&D to flip the AC systems. The higher numbers equal better armor. Yeah. So it's a two-handed weapon fired like a rifle, except the arms absorb the recoil, not the shoulders, since the weapon does not rest on the latter. The gun is also called a hackbutt. Years after its development, the term arquebus expanded to include handguns of the same era, and eventually the word lost its original meaning that was used instead of to describe small arms used by cavalry. I've never heard the term arquebus used for cavalry small arms. In terms of the AD&D game campaign, the arquebus refers to the large two-handed primitive gun with a smooth bore barrel, as opposed to a rifled gun. Hence, the gun is not technically a rifle. Yeah, I'm always surprised by the number of people who don't know that, who you would think would know that. They're like, why is a rifle called a rifle? And I've heard the answer to that be because it can shoot really far. But no, a rifle is not called a rifle because it can shoot far. It has to do with the rifling in the barrel. But there are a lot of people who don't understand that. Even people who you would think that. Let's see. Well, let's keep going. The arquebus was developed in order to give the average infantry the use of smoke powder, whose destructive potential is only newly recognized in many areas. The musket arquebus is loaded by pouring smoke powder from a flask or horn into a muzzle and then firmly packing it with a piece of paper. The projectile, an iron ball, is rammed in after this. Once the barrel is ready, the pan is filled with smoke powder, the pan's cover is closed, and a burning slow match, a piece of cloth or paper rolled into a fuse, is placed in the mechanism called the serpentine, the curved piece of metal where the rifle would someday, where the trigger would be someday on a modern rifle. Pressure on the plate metal releases the serpentine into the pan, and boom. Since this weapon involves smoke powder, DMs may forbid its use. Players should check with their DM as to whether this is allowed in the campaign. Smoke powder is considered a magical item. The historical, see, that's also kind of a hacking it in that way, right? Smoke powder is considered a magical item in AD&D. The historical arquebus required 2 types of gunpowder, a finer variety for the pan loading and a coarse variety for muzzle loading. Each type was carried in a separate container. If the DM desires, the gunner may require 2 different types of powder types in order to operate the arquebus. The arquebus is a very dangerous instrument, nearly as dangerous to its user as the target. In order to reload, the target has to hold the smoldering slow match in his left hand while reloading with his right. A slow-burning match burns for 8 rounds. An arquebus can be fired only once every 3 rounds, providing the character is not being attacked while loading. Treat the gunner as the same as a spellcaster, casting a long spell. When firing the arquebus, all range penalties are doubled. If an arquebus attack roll is either a 1 or 2, the gun backfires. That's 10% of the time. 10% of the time. Inflicting 1d6 points of damage to the gunner. It is also fouled and cannot be used until cleaned, a process which takes at least 30 minutes and relative peace. When an arquebus scores a hit, it does 1 to 9 points of damage on a d10. If a 10 is rolled, the die is rolled again, and this amount is added to the 10. Each time a 10 is rolled, the die is rolled again and added to the total. There are no strength modifiers to arquebus damage. If the arquebus smoke powder is exposed to water, the powder is ruined. As far as many folk are concerned, smoke powder and magic don't mix. Sure, the arquebus is a newfangled weapon, but not all new things are necessarily better. With an arquebus, the fire has to take more time to reload, unless he wants to have someone tag along and supply him with an extra arquebus already loaded in order to keep up a steady rate of fire. Oh, certainly, that can be done. Or the more intelligent adventurer will go out and get himself a longbow, which fires arrows quicker than an arquebus can throw a shot, and has comparable range. As far as can be determined, the arquebus is good for making God's awful noise that will either scare the 9 hells out of the enemy, or possibly anger the target into attacking with even more ferocity. And that's Grim Wand, Professional Mercenary. The arquebus gets its name from the German Hakenbüche, meaning gun with a hook. Okay. The battle axe. Yeah, I know. So we've noticed that, especially in AD&D. Your misfire rates, your rate of things not working is horrific. It works in the context of a game, I suppose, from time to time, but the actual rate of that is just like too much. Like, wasn't that also of Ships in the Sea? We looked at Of Ships in the Sea, the AD&D book, which was also an iconic book, gameplay at the time, I remember. But it's wasn't it its rate for getting lost at sea just like astronomical? Stray says, I've had a backfire. It hit like 3 of us. It was a blunderbuss filled with whatever I could find. I'm glad you're all right. And you probably are giving this, like, who are you giving this to? If you're giving this to your standard infantry, how many hit points do they have anyway? Yeah, with the 10% misfire rate, your best strategy in battle is to give your opponents free arquebuses. I'm for the percentile systems. I mean, that's how. I don't think I would design one today, but I do love them because that's how I started. I started out with MERP, so that's where that came from. Right. So yes, unfortunately, if you're rolling a D20, you cannot do things in fewer than 5% increments. And for certain stuff like ocean navigation, that's absurdly high. Yet they didn't figure out. I mean, you could, like later in 3rd edition, they had like rolling to confirm a crit, which broke that out. So you could have done something like this, but something like that. That okay on a we're on a roll of a 1 or 2. Like on the roll of a 1, roll again, and if you still miss your target, then it's a misfire. But it seems like they don't do that. They hadn't thought about that in AD&D. All right, battle axe. Contrary to popular artwork, the most common version of the battle axe is a stout pole about 4 feet in length with a single-edged trumpet-shaped blade mounted on one end. Battle axes are also called broad axes. So they don't go the double-bitted axe here like you would expect. I'm almost expecting this book to do. The battle axe is a footman's weapon, giving these soldiers a longer reach and fighting chance against these mounted opponents. Its long handle allows the wielder to put considerable force into his swing. Despite the shaft length, the battle axe is a one-handed weapon. With a 4-foot-long axe handle? The typical battle axe is the typical dwarven battle axe. The typical dwarven battle axe is a double-bladed weapon, usually with a spiked top. Dwarves favor these weapons since the long handles compensate somewhat for the short dwarven stature, especially against the large humanoid opponents. Oh, by the way, I did confirm the other day that, yes, I was looking for the confirmation that Bilbo's mail is dwarven made. It was made for an elf prince, so they did reverse it in this book. They've got the really stuff that seems to be inspired by Bilbo's mithril shirt being magical elven chain mail. Hate saying that. But in The Hobbit, yes, we got confirmation on that. I found the reference. So that was dwarf-made mail, but it was made for an elven prince. They're often wielded with 2 hands. In many dwarven cultures, the battle axe is a symbol of dwarven might. The spike does 1d3 damage. Dwarves are not the only race that favors the battle axe. Gnolls are often encountered with battle axes. Troglodytes use a stone version of the battle axe with all the disadvantages of the stone weapons, such as prone to chipping and shattering. I've seen that. Looks like we got explanation for trying to explain why dwarves use battle axes. So it's like, as for dwarves, this says, our center of gravity is low enough that we can swing a battle axe and not topple over from the momentum. It's a fine weapon for hewing the legs of a giant out from under him, and it's a weapon that lets us pull all of our weight into the swing. Belaying pin. How odd here. Belaying pin, not intended as an actual weapon, the belaying pin is a wooden or metal rod that is inserted into holes bored through a ship's rail. Ship's ropes are secured to these belaying pins. The pins are usually found in rows, bringing a series of ropes together in one location. The pins may be pulled out and used as a melee weapon, more often than not during boarding actions at sea when no other weapons are within reach. The pin is a one-handed weapon. If hurled in combat, it is treated as a club. When a bloke is at sea, unarmed and surrounded by degenerate pirates, a belaying pin makes a fine on-the-spot weapon, even though its primary function is to hold rope, not bash heads. No warrior in his right mind would bother to speculate in or stock up on belaying pins. Oh, Sable did not like confirming criticals. Confirming criticals is dumb. Oh, James agrees. And unfun. I don't need to confirm any other type of roll. I'm not confirming a crit either. Blowguns, bolas. If you see one that's particularly interesting, let me know. We can go back and check it out. Blowguns, but I don't think we need to look at every one of them. Blowguns, bolas, bow. So what does it tell us about different types of bows? Because AD&D does divide a whole bunch of different, different types of bows and a bunch of different types of arrows. So it says short bow. Short bows, the first to be developed, although they were not called as such. I guess then they were just called bows. This is more of a default term now that refers to anything which is not a longbow. Short bow staves are about 5.5 feet long on the average. As the years passed, attempts were made to increase bow ranges. Bows were either given longer staves or flexibility was increased with no change to the length. The former resulted in what is now called the long bow. Bows fell into decline with the spread of handguns. It was reasoned that while a wounded or weakened soldier might lack the strength to pull a bow, he could still pull a trigger. In fantasy settings, there's no danger of the bow being replaced so quickly. Short bows can only fire short bow arrows, identical to flight arrows in game terms. Okay, long bows, but we've got composite bows here. Are we going to talk about elven bows? Composite bows are long bows or short bows whose staves are made from more than one type of material. This gives greater flexibility and thus greater range. They were developed after the normal longbow. The second material that makes up a longbow may be anything from another type of wood to bone, sinew, or metal. Metal? The different materials are usually glued together. An adventurer who wishes to gain a damage bonus for his high strength when wielding a bow must purchase specially crafted bows. Such a bow costs the normal price for a bow, plus the normal price again for every bonus point desired. Thus, a warrior with a 17 strength who wants a longbow that would give him his +1 bonus to damage would have to pay a total of 150 gold coins. The same fighter with an 18 over 00 strength, +6 to damage, would pay 525 gold. These bows can be strung and drawn only by characters of that strength or higher. Others attempting this must make a successful bend bars or lift gates roll. Sounds like Odysseus, right? PH says, I believe they also just called swords swords. Eventually someone would say, hey, this is a long sword. Right. Or this is kind of a short sword, come to think of it. So most archers protect their wrists from the snap of the bowstring by fastening a piece of horn, bone, or leather to them. Such items are known as bracers. We do talk about Hastings here. Hastings of 1066. Many historians claim the Normans, led by William the Conqueror, beat the enemy by unleashing a hail of arrows on them. Some speculate that Harold died from an arrow through the eye. The bow used was only 5 feet long. It also does talk about Agincourt a bit. Cressy and Agincourt. Arrows, and then it does divide different types of arrows too. So in general, we've got flight arrow. The flight arrow, as its name implies, is built for distance. These are lightweight arrows and are often used for hunting. Most of these arrows are made of ash or birch and are 30 to 40 inches long. Whereas an incendiary arrow is an arrow type except bone or stone with a wad of hemp soaked in a bituminous substance such as tar and placed just below the head. The hemp is lit before the arrow is fired. In addition to its normal damage, the arrow causes 1 additional hit point of fire damage on the round. People have been doing experiments with those on YouTube too, right? I was about to say, didn't we come up with that? That it seems like there's been I've seen several YouTube videos where people have been trying to get that to work. I don't know. Were arrows pretty much made to a standard length? I don't know. With mild deviations, regardless of the type. I don't know. I mean, your draw length would seem to be pretty similar. Somewhere between 27 and 32.5 inches is what Wikipedia is saying, but specifically mentions the standardization of arrow length. Yeah, because whether I'm pulling a short bow or whether I'm pulling a long bow, there should be some max. I mean, it's dedicated by or just determined by my arm span. In addition to normal damage, this says the incendiary arrow. So, popularized here by AD&D and also many movies. In addition to its normal damage, the arrow causes 1 additional point of fire damage on the round of impact unless the target makes a saving throw versus death magic. At the DM's option, flaming arrows may ignite combustible materials contacting it. Saving throw versus death. That seems like a lot of trouble to go through. You got to do a saving throw versus death magic to keep from taking 1 additional point of damage from fire damage. Sheaf arrows, also known as war arrows, are heavier arrows but with less flight range than flight arrows but cause more damage. The arrows are steel and quite sharp. The arrowheads are steel and quite sharp. Sheaf arrows are used in warfare and can be fired only from longbows. These arrows range in length from 20 to 27 inches. Yes, it is. Oh yeah. Okay. So, Michael was talking about Shadiversity with regard to axes up here. Yeah. And then, she says that Shadiversity did tests on fire arrows recently, but there were historical accuracy well before that, or disputes of historical accuracy before that. Yeah, it's one of those Hollywood things that has ruined people's perception of history. Yeah, Heavy Gear and Jovian Chronicles, Michael says. Stone arrows. See, like, how do you deal with all these different, like, if you're not being very systematic, then here is stone arrow for you, like stone axe. But I think that the more systematic way to do that, I think that materials are over here in the Dungeon Master's Guide. They're like, let's just give arrows, and then if we need some type of modifier by type of a type of material for weapons or armor or whatever, let's just have a table to apply that if we even need that. Stone arrows are considered flight arrows for game purposes, except the stone arrowheads cause less damage and have a tendency to shatter if they impact armor or similar hard surfaces. If a stone arrow hits any object made of metal, stone, or harder substance, it has a 20% chance of surviving the hit without damage to the arrow. If a die roll does not indicate success, an arrow is still allowed to be allowed a saving throw versus crushing blow, with a +4 bonus using the figures for rock crystal. Again, that's a lot of trouble. But I guess people are looking for that kind of detail in this book. The way I'm shooting a stone arrow, and it hit somebody's metal armor, so it has a 20% chance of surviving. And it didn't make that. So now, please, for your arrow, please roll a saving throw versus crushing blow for the arrow with a +4 bonus. It's too much. Oh, it's been a while since I've read Ivanhoe. I did read it. It's been years, but I deliberately wanted to read it when I was going through and I was trying to read, deliberately trying to read classics. I remember liking it because it was very different. Let's see. Lynn. Yeah, Lynn and I were talking about the Ivanhoe movie and how influential that was on us. So it's very different from the Ivanhoe movie. It's, well, I won't give any kind of spoilers, but it's odd because in the movie, Ivanhoe is the main character. Like, it's about Ivanhoe. In the book, Ivanhoe is not in the book as much as you would think. It's not really his story. Caltrops. The cestus, a leather glove that has spikes and razor edges on the back and across its knuckles. Sometimes used by Vulcans, right? Other forms of cesti are loaded with lead or other heavy filler in order to give a punch much more force. The weapon is mainly used as a gladiator weapon in the arenas of sport. The damage caused by the cestus, 1d4 versus small and medium creatures, 1d3 to large, replaces the damage caused by the punch. Although this may seem to be a disadvantage, remember that punching damage is temporary while damage from the cestus is permanent until healed. There's no proficiency in the cestus, although a warrior can spend a proficiency slot to specialize in it. Clubs. Now, this is also a fantastic image right here. Looks like Ring Wraith inspired to me. I think they've used this picture for wraiths here. And also, I don't know which one came first, but I think I've seen ring wraiths depicted similar to this. I'm not sure which image came first. But this is definitely one of the better images in the illustrations in the book. I like this one. This wouldn't be worth having framed someplace, I think. Well, I know, but he's in the middle of reading it. He's in the middle of reading it. Oh, he's a necromancer. James says he's a necromancer, and those are undead knights. Okay. Let's see. Crossbow. We got light and heavy crossbows. Hand crossbows. Those are also kind of questionable, right? Oh, wait. This says the main difference between the light and heavy crossbows are the size of the quarrel and the presence of a stirrup, which is found only on the heavy crossbow. Oh, I had put light crossbow, like a category of light crossbow, meaning that it was loaded without mechanical help. But this says that the difference is the light and heavy crossbows are the size of the quarrel and the presence of the stirrup, which is found only on the heavy crossbow. Heavy and light crossbows are more correctly referred to as 2-foot and 1-foot crossbows. I have not heard of that. Specifically, this term refers to the length of the quarrels. The 1-foot crossbow is made with a steel tiller and is quite rugged. It may easily be concealed beneath flowing garments such as cloaks and robes. It's frowned upon by the more lawful civilized cities. That sounds like a fantasy thing. Though bows cannot be used underwater, the crossbow can, since the tension produced by the weapon overcomes the water resistance. Underwater races such as the Lakatha, mermen, and tritons use crossbows of both heavy and light varieties. Has anybody ever tried shooting a crossbow underwater? Sounds like something somebody would have done on YouTube. That specific image, so that is Lord Soth. That specific image is him riding alongside some whites. I still like it. What is this regarding? Is this regarding the shooting the crossbow underwater? A hand crossbow. This deadly little bow is a pistol-sized weapon made with a steel tiller. It's more easily concealed than the light crossbow and is used is considered unethical in civilized societies. I love the world building here. Oh, Soth was a badass. He's from Dragonlance. Ah, okay. PH says, I have a crossbow. I would never try to drown it. You can't shoot any type of bow underwater. Yeah, there seems to be a lot of it. That seems to be extremely questionable. Rubber or compressed air. Spear guns use rubber and have a very short range. Yeah, the range is not going to be long. They didn't talk about that. I do think they decrease range. Like if we're looking at underwater combat, we would decrease range. Hand crossbows have a reloading mechanism built into the tiller. But I don't really think you see hand crossbows. To build them mechanically. When is the first time you actually see a hand crossbow historically? Quarrels, the dagger. Dirk. Parrying dagger. Darts. Yeah, hand crossbows are also a fantasy fabrication. Yeah, I don't know where you see that. I remember, didn't they have them in that movie First Night? First Night, they have them all over the place. And I was like, I don't really think that existed. First Night hand crossbow. That was when Sean Connery played King Arthur. I thought a lot of them had. I don't see that. I don't see a picture of it right now. I was trying to pull that up, but I want to see. Somebody might know here in this. I think they did make mini crossbows to shoot lead shot after firearms were invented. They were basically slingshots. See, I can believe that somebody making something that is hand much later. But I think I remember in First Night a bunch of the enemy having a whole bunch of crossbows. It's been a long time since I've seen First Night. First Night is less than Excalibur. We're going to have to talk about Excalibur specifically on Table Talk one night, Robert says. Well, let's talk about the flail here, and then we'll get out of here. Let's see what this says about the flail. Also controversial. Now, I've really now the flail I like for the reason, just as far as weapons go, because of the influence of that Ivanhoe movie, the 1950s Ivanhoe, when Sir Bois Guilbert says, he's fighting with Ivanhoe at the end, and I bear mace and chain this day. That I thought was really cool. So early on, I loved that weapon because of that scene. And it does make a really cool movie weapon, especially since they're fighting knights, and Ivanhoe and both of them have metal shields, which I've talked about the problem with in another one of these episodes. But that they're on horseback, they're fighting on horseback in close combat. Sir Bois Guilbert has the mace and chain, and it's just smashing against Ivanhoe's shield, and it's getting torn up, and you're hearing all of you've got the great audio of that battle. I mean, that was really great. ChatGPT says, in summary, using a crossbow underwater is not effective because the dense water slows down the arrow, making it inaccurate and short range. Yes. So for that reason, I've always had an affinity for it, but I'm not sure that it's, especially its depictions here. Especially these, artists always love to put more. Artists love to put multiple heads on flails. It seems like even when I was having pictures, there's something in War of Kings that has multiple flails. Flail heads, because if you ask an artist to draw a flail, they often draw something like this. These look like, that's getting more Scourge-like to me. I don't think you would want your mace head to come back and hit your hand. Like this seems better to me because you don't have to worry about this head coming back and hitting your hand. You appear to definitely have that problem here and here. Like, I'm not even sure, where do we have even, well, I suppose we look this up pretty easily. I'm sure that other people have done this on YouTube in a lot more detail. Flail historical example. Do we even have illustrations where somebody is trying to use a flail? Well, look, that's a later period illustration, but those people look like they're using a two-handed hinged flail. I'll have to look for that. Other people probably know. Yes, he does. So what does this say? So this is probably our classic fantasy interpretation of a flail, I'll bet. The flail is a sturdy wooden handle attached to an iron rod. A wooden rod with spikes or a spiked iron ball. Between the handle and its implement is either a hinge or a chain link. The weapon was originally used as a tool for threshing grain. Whether a flail is used by a foot soldier or horseman, the principle is the same. Rumor tells us that the Flind's bars? I don't know what that is. The flin bars are in fact a variation of the flail. This has not been substantiated, and the Flins have no wish to cooperate in the research. What is that? Flin bars? A Flint bar composes. This is on the Pathfinder wiki. A Flint bar comprises 2 iron bars ringed with spikes or studs linked together with a heavy chain. Though it resembles a nunchaku, it's significantly heavier due to its metal parts. The Flint bar is the signature weapon of Flins, a more powerful variant of the gnolls. Oh, so this is a fantasy thing? And all Flins are naturally proficient with this weapon despite its difficulty of use. So Flins are a powerful variant of gnolls. Their signature weapon is the Flint bar. Okay, so that's a fantasy thing. Okay, yeah, okay, so subspecies of gnoll. Gotcha. Footman's flail. The footman's flail has a handle approximately 4 feet in length. It's otherwise conforms to the above description. Horseman's flail. The horseman's version of the flail has a 2-foot-long handle. The horseman already has good positional advantage sitting atop a horse and consequently does not need the greater reach afforded by the long handle of the footman's flail. It's a one-handed weapon. In the adventurer's world, a flail can be used by warriors or priests, especially if the latter is not allowed to use edged weapons. Ah, yes. The footman's flail causes more damage, since the longer pole enables the wielder to make a stronger swing. It's a good weapon to use in subduing someone, or even for disarming maneuvers. Bear in mind that the footman's flail is a 2-handed weapon, whereas the horseman's flail is one-handed. There is certainly no problem with a footman using a horseman's flail, although it would not be a good habit. A foot soldier would be better off with a different blunt weapon that can cause more damage, or have a more versatility, such as a warhammer. According to Brother George, a cleric. Well, then the footman could use a shield. You could use a shield then. The followers of Peter the Hermit, who fought in the Crusades in the 11th and 12th century, used flails, placing spikes on the short flail heads. This adaptation gave rise to other modifications, such as replacing the second bar with 2 or more iron balls attached by chain. Does anybody have reference on Peter the Hermit? Footman flails were used mostly in the 13th and 14th centuries by foot soldiers, especially peasant troops, while the horsemen enjoyed the use of cavalry troops, while the horseman's flail version enjoyed use by the cavalry troops during the same period. Flails were used as late as the 1920s by Polish peasants against Soviet troops. Does anybody have a reference for that? Peter the Hermit? Not Peter the Terminator. Peter the Hermit. Peter organized, according to Wikipedia, guided the paupers as a spiritually purified and holy group of pilgrims who would supposedly be protected by the Holy Ghost. Peter did not train his army, nor did he supply weapons or food. Some historians think that possibly the People's Crusade also included well-armed soldiers or nobles. Well, all right. We'll have to see. Peter the Hermit launched the very tragic People's Crusade. And did they have flails? Well, all right. So I'm going to put let's see here. We'll just put that there. Or there. Flails. Done. our questionable flails. Cool from the movie Ivanhoe, but questionable. Yeah, we will get into the Geekdom A. Because for some reason, AD&D went into a whole bunch of depth and different types of pole arms that really didn't actually have a whole lot of influence on the game. Well, we will get to those. All right. Well, I'm going to do some cleaning and then I'm going to get back to writing. So we got the countdown going on. Everybody, take inspiration from the War of Art today. Go, be creative, be constructive, be creative, and grind on. Later, everybody.